Imagine an AI so powerful it can create entire video games from scratch, predict what videos will go viral on YouTube, and do all of this for a tiny fraction of what major US tech companies are spending. Sounds impossible, right? Well, that's exactly what DeepSeek, the latest AI breakthrough from China, is claiming to do. And it's got everyone talking. But here's the real shocker. While companies like OpenAI are pouring billions into their models, DeepSeek has managed to rival them for just a few million. How is that even possible? Is this a total game changer for AI? And if so, who wins? Who loses? And what does this mean for the future of artificial intelligence as we know it? From Wall Street to Silicon Valley, and even governments worldwide, everyone is watching DeepSeek. And today, we're diving deep into why this could be one of the biggest shifts in AI history. Let's get into it.
All right, so you guys have sent us tons of stuff on DeepSeek, this AI coming out of China, and wow, it's got everyone talking, like seriously turning heads.
Well, it's fascinating to see, a new player come in like DeepSeek and sort of challenge how we've been thinking about doing AI development.
Yeah, you sent over these articles, and it sounds like DeepSeek is pretty powerful. I mean, they claim it can create video games from scratch, predict what videos will go viral on YouTube.
The most intriguing part to me is the cost effectiveness.
What do you mean?
Well, they built this whole model for a tiny fraction of what U.S. companies are spending. We're talking millions of dollars compared to billions.
Millions versus billions. That's nuts. How'd they do that? Is there like a secret trick or something?
Well, it seems pretty streamlined. I mean, they developed this thing in just 2 months using NVIDIA GPUs that are less powerful but much easier to get a hold of. And they've done some very clever optimization with their training process. They're really making the most of what they have.
Okay, so it's powerful, cheap, and fast. Is this a total game changer for AI?
Potentially, yes. One of the most interesting things about DeepSeek is that it's open source. So anybody can use it and modify it, which is the opposite of what companies like OpenAI are doing.
That's a bold move. Why would they give it away for free when most companies are charging an arm and a leg for access to their AI?
I think it's a calculated risk. The idea is that if they open it up, development of AI applications could accelerate rapidly. They're basically inviting the whole world to help improve their technology.
This is starting to sound less like just tech news and more like a big power play. You even mentioned something about the stock market reacting to DeepSeek.
Yeah, we're already seeing some nervousness in the markets, particularly with companies like NVIDIA, whose expensive GPUs might not be so essential anymore if DeepSeek takes off.
So DeepSeek is shaking things up, changing the way we think about AI, and potentially impacting the stock market. This is a big deal, isn't it?
It's a great example of how innovation can come from unexpected places and disrupt entire industries. It's definitely something to watch closely.
One of the articles you sent me talks about DeepSeek's performance on something called Humanity's Last Exam, which sounds kind of scary. What's that all about?
Humanity's Last Exam is this AI benchmark created by professors from a bunch of top universities. It's like the SATs for AI.
Oh, I get it. An AI test. So how did DeepSeek do?
They say they performed as well or even better than the leading AI models from the US. And remember, they did this for a fraction of the cost and time.
Wow, so they're not just all talk, they have the results to back it up. What's the secret to their success? What makes DeepSeek different?
One key difference is something called chain of thought reasoning. Basically, DeepSeek explains its problem-solving process step by step. It's like showing its work, which a lot of other AI models don't do.
That's really interesting. It's like they're letting us peek inside the AI's brain and see how it thinks.
Yeah, exactly. And this transparency could be important as AI systems get more and more complex.
You also sent over an interview with Arvind Srinivas, the CEO of Perplexity AI. He's actually using DeepSeek in his company, and he seems pretty excited about its potential.
He was really impressed by DeepSeek's technical report. He even praised the detailed explanations and the clever solutions they came up with to train the model so efficiently.
He sounds like a fan. What does he see happening in the future?
Well, he thinks that all the data that's available on the internet now, even stuff from models like ChatGPT, is really speeding up the development of AI. And DeepSeek, because it's open source, is in a great position to take advantage of this.
So closed source models are actually helping to advance open source AI. That's kind of ironic, isn't it?
It is. And Srinivas also thinks DeepSeek will force U.S. companies to rethink how they're developing AI. They've always assumed you need billions of dollars and tons of computing power, but DeepSeek shows that might not be true.
So DeepSeek is kind of a wake-up call.
Yeah.
What about NVIDIA, though? Their stock is so high because everyone wants their fancy, expensive GPUs for AI development.
Well, Srinivas thinks DeepSeek could be a real threat to NVIDIA. If their more affordable approach reduces the demand for NVIDIA's hardware, it could really hurt their business.
That makes sense. So we're not just talking about cool new AI tech, but also potential winners and losers in the stock market.
Exactly. It's a whole new landscape.
And speaking of winners and losers, DeepSeek's open source model could shake up the global balance of power in AI.
That's right. Srinivas sees DeepSeek as a potential threat to U.S. dominance in the AI field. It's cheaper and it performs really well, so it could be adopted all over the world, especially in places where expensive hardware is out of reach.
Wow, so DeepSeek could have huge implications for global competition in AI.
Definitely. It shows that the AI playing field is leveling out. The U.S. isn't the only game in town anymore.
This deep dive is getting more and more interesting. We've talked about DeepSeek's technology, its impact on the market, and even its potential to shift global power dynamics. It's clear this is much more than just a simple tech story.
Absolutely. It's a story about innovation, disruption, and the future of one of the most powerful technologies we've ever created.
And it's a story that's just getting started. We'll be back after a quick break to continue our exploration of DeepSeek and the future of AI.
Looking forward to it.
Stay with us.
I think one of the things that's really important here is how DeepSeek is making this powerful AI more accessible, less expensive, more people can use it.
Yeah, exactly. Like, imagine a small team of game developers, maybe in I don't know, Indonesia or somewhere, using DeepSeek to create a game with crazy good graphics, like a AAA title.
Right. It's completely different from how it used to be, where only these big companies with tons of money could really do much with AI. DeepSeek is showing us that you don't always need to spend billions to make something amazing.
This is super exciting, this idea of anyone being able to use AI. But are there downsides to all this? What are the risks of making this technology so widely available?
It's like any powerful tool, right? You have to be careful. As AI becomes easier to get, we need to be really careful about people using it for bad things. Like making really advanced malware, or spreading fake news, or even, developing autonomous weapons.
That's scary stuff. It feels like we're going into uncharted territory here. How do we even begin to make sure AI is used responsibly, especially as it gets more powerful?
I think global cooperation is key. We need to have clear rules and guidelines, ethical frameworks, to make sure AI is developed and used in a way that benefits everyone.
This isn't just a tech industry problem, is it?
No, not at all. It's a challenge for all of society.
We also need to think about the economic side of things. What happens to jobs when AI starts to automate more and more tasks?
It's a valid concern. It happens with every big technological change. But I think it's important to remember that new technology also creates new opportunities. The key is to be prepared. Invest in education, help people learn new skills, and make sure there are safety nets in place.
Right, so it's not just about the technology itself, but how we adapt to it as a society.
Exactly. We need to think about the whole picture. The social and economic impacts, not just the cool new gadgets.
This brings us back to that whole debate about open source versus closed source.
Yeah.
DeepSeek is all about open source, but companies like OpenAI are keeping things more locked down. What does this mean for the future of AI?
It's a fascinating debate, isn't it? People who love open source say it leads to more collaboration, more transparency, and faster innovation. And we're seeing that with DeepSeek.
But isn't there more risk with open source? If anyone can access and change the technology, couldn't it be easier for someone to use it for bad stuff?
That's the argument for closed source.
Yeah.
You have more control, more oversight.
Yeah.
So you can try to prevent misuse.
So it's like a trade-off. Open source moves faster, but might be less safe, while closed source is slower, but maybe more controlled.
Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah.
There's no easy answer. We might end up with something in between, a hybrid approach, where some parts are open and others are more restricted, depending on the specific risks.
We can't talk about open source and global access without thinking about how DeepSeek might shift the balance of power in AI. People are saying it's a challenge to U.S. dominance.
It definitely shows that things are changing. The U.S. isn't the only one who can make cutting-edge AI anymore. China's catching up fast, and other countries are making big progress, too.
So the race is on, but what does winning even look like in AI? Is it just about having the most powerful model, or is there more to it?
I think it's more nuanced than that. Winning with AI isn't just about the technology itself. It's about using that technology to solve real-world problems, to make life better for people.
So it's not about building the biggest, fastest AI, but about building AI that actually helps people.
Exactly. And that requires more than just technical skills. You need to think about the ethical implications, the social impacts, the big picture.
Like Arvind Srinivas and Perplexity AI. He's not trying to build the most powerful AI. He's focused on using existing AI to solve a specific problem, giving people accurate and reliable answers.
And it seems to be working. They're finding their niche by focusing on real-world applications and making a user-friendly product.
It proves that you don't have to be the biggest or the loudest to be successful in AI.
Right? You just have to find the right problem and use the right tools.
And Perplexity's approach is smart. They're not tied to any one company or technology, so they have more flexibility as things change.
Speaking of change, we talked about DeepSeek's impact on the stock market. NVIDIA's stock took a hit, and their partnership with AMD could hurt them even more. But what about other companies?
It seems like everyone in tech, especially those involved in AI hardware and software, is watching DeepSeek very carefully.
Yeah, there's a lot at stake. Investors are trying to figure out who's going to win and lose in this new world.
So it's not just about the AI itself, but also the whole ecosystem around it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Smart investors are looking at how these changes in technology will affect the market.
It's like a big game of chess. Okay, let's dive into some of the technical details. You sent me some stuff about how DeepSeek was developed, and I gotta be honest, some of it went over my head.
It could get pretty complicated. One of the things that makes DeepSeek so efficient is something called a mixture of experts architecture.
Mixture of experts. Sounds cool, but I have no idea what that means.
Basically, it means they break down the big AI model into smaller, more specialized modules. Each module is like an expert in a specific area, and they all work together.
So it's like a team of AI specialists.
Exactly. This way, DeepSeek can use its computing power more efficiently and get better results, even with less powerful hardware.
Clever. That's how they managed to do so much with a smaller budget.
Right. They also use something called 8-bit floating point training.
Okay, now you're just using big words to confuse me. What's that?
It's just a way of representing numbers in a computer system. 8-bit floating point training uses less memory and processing power compared to the traditional methods.
So another way to get more out of less.
Yep. They're really good at finding ways to be efficient.
Turning limitations into advantages. That's impressive. There's a lot of debate about whether DeepSeek is a completely new way of thinking about AI or just a really clever use of existing technology. What do you think?
It's hard to say for sure. They've definitely achieved something remarkable. It's not easy to get these kinds of results with limited resources.
But is it revolutionary?
It's definitely challenging a lot of our assumptions. The idea that you need huge amounts of data and supercomputers to make powerful AI DeepSeek suggests that there might be other ways.
It's like a wake-up call for the AI community.
Yeah, we need to be open to new ideas and question the way we've always done things.
We've talked about DeepSeek's impact on the market, the technical stuff, and how it could change the balance of power in AI, but we've been focusing on the positive side. What about the risks?
You're right. We can't ignore the potential downsides. We've already discussed misuse, the need for ethics, and economic disruption. But there's more.
Like what? What other things should we be worried about as AI gets more integrated into our lives?
One thing is bias. If AI systems are trained on biased data, they can actually make those biases worse. They could lead to unfair or discriminatory outcomes.
We need to make sure we're not creating AI that's prejudiced.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We also need to think about privacy. As AI gets smarter, it can collect and analyze more and more personal data. We have to balance the benefits of AI with the right to privacy.
It all comes back to ethics. We need to make sure AI is developed and used in a way that respects human rights.
Absolutely. We need to talk openly and honestly about both the good and the bad sides of AI. Only then can we use its power for good and avoid the potential harm.
So who's ultimately responsible for making sure AI is developed ethically? Is it tech companies, governments, or individuals?
I think it's all of us. It's a shared responsibility. Tech companies need to build AI that's safe and unbiased. Governments need to create rules that protect people. And individuals need to be informed and engaged in the conversation.
It's a team effort. Okay, we've covered a lot in this part of our deep dive. We've gone from the technical details to the ethical challenges and the global implications of DeepSeek. But before we move on to our final thoughts, let's take a moment to reflect on everything we've discussed so far.
Sounds good. It's a lot to take in.
We'll be right back with the final part of our deep dive into DeepSeek and its impact on the world of AI. Welcome back. We've been talking about DeepSeek, this AI that's got everyone talking. It's fascinating, but it also makes you think about the big picture. Like, what does this mean for the future of AI as a whole?
Absolutely. It really challenges some of our assumptions about AI development and where it's headed.
One thing I keep thinking about is creativity. Some people are worried that AI will replace human artists and musicians and writers, but others think it could actually make us more creative.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? It seems like every time there's a big technological leap, people worry about machines taking over.
Yeah.
But if you look back at history, usually doesn't work out that way.
Like, think about the printing press. People were afraid it would kill storytelling, but it actually led to a huge increase in literacy and new forms of writing.
Exactly. Technology changes things, but it doesn't necessarily destroy creativity.
Yeah.
I think AI is more like a new tool that we can use to express ourselves in different ways.
Right. Instead of being afraid of it, maybe we should be thinking about how we can use AI to enhance our own creativity.
Exactly. Imagine architects using AI to design buildings that are both functional and beautiful, or musicians using AI to create completely new kinds of music that evoke emotions we've never experienced before.
It's like having a brainstorming partner that can access all of human history and art and music.
Right. It can help us push the boundaries of what's possible creatively. And who knows, maybe AI will even develop its own unique forms of creativity.
It's an exciting time to be alive. It feels like we're on the verge of a new renaissance, a time where human and artificial intelligence come together to create incredible things.
I agree. It's going to be fascinating to see what happens next.
But with all this excitement comes responsibility. We have to make sure that AI is developed and used ethically and that it benefits all of humanity, not just a select few.
Definitely.
Yeah.
We can't forget about the potential risks we talked about earlier, like misuse, bias, and the importance of protecting privacy.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the key takeaway you want our listeners to remember about DeepSeek and the future of AI?
I think the most important thing to remember is that the future of AI is not predetermined. It's being shaped right now by the choices we make, the conversations we have, and the actions we take.
It's a call to action, then. We're not just passive observers. We all have a role to play in guiding AI towards a positive future.
Exactly. We're all part of this technological revolution, and the decisions we make today will determine what the world looks like tomorrow.
Well said. That's a great note to end on. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into DeepSeek and the ever-evolving world of AI.
It was my pleasure. It's been a great discussion. I hope everyone keeps exploring and learning about this incredible technology because the future of AI is just beginning.